Do we have it, folks? I think we might. This is the new Vancouver Canucks meme inside joke that we're going to be seeing over and over again. Because earlier today, the Vancouver Canucks made themselves a roster move. Patrik Allvin getting all the way back in there, digging into the depths of the cap space guide, because today, GM Patrik Allvin announced that defenseman Erik Brannstrom and forward Arshdeep Bains have been assigned to the AHL. If you're looking at this tweet and saying, okay, wait, I think we've seen that before. Yeah, it is literally the exact same tweet from a few days ago on October 24th. These are two different tweets, folks, but the words are exactly the same, and the order and everything, you can have them side by side. It is the exact same tweet. And even the replies are going out there and saying, hey, wait a minute, like, come on, man, let them get a paycheck too. For Erik Brannstrom, he makes the same either way, but it sucks for Arshdeep Bains. He makes $825,000 a year in the NHL, but only $70,000 a year in the AHL. There was the other tweet, or the analysis from a few days ago, that Arshdeep Bains gets a few $100s a day in the AHL, but in the NHL, he gets a few thousand. It literally 10 times itself when he is in the National Hockey League. But of course, Canucks fans, we recognize why they're doing this. They're not doing this because they're punishing Arshdeep Bains for scoring his first goal yesterday. Of course, we recognize the fantastic story that was Arshdeep Bains and how he was able to improve from last season to this season. He has been a completely different and better player for it. Obviously, that is awesome. But the Vancouver Canucks have themselves a job to do, and Patrik Allvin is in the business of making his team better by accruing cap space over the course of the year. The fact that the Canucks were able to send down Brannstrom and Bains a few days ago and call them back up for the game yesterday just kind of indicates where the Canucks' mindset is at. They are trying to maximize their cap space, and it is awesome. Now, we'll probably see Brannstrom and or Bains get called up in some capacity again tomorrow or whenever the Canucks play next. Who knows if Dakota Joshua is going to be ready to come back sooner rather than later too, which adds another really big important part into the Vancouver Canucks forward core. But ultimately, what I wanted to also do in this video was go over some of the extra Canucks updates, not necessarily like big news stories, but just kind of some thoughts that have been floating around there on the subreddit, just on Canucks Twitter, stuff that I've been seeing lately. Starting out with this that was posted by Noah Strang. He tweeted this out yesterday after the game. Rick Tocchet says that JT Miller went to the training staff and asked for his alternate captaincy to be given to Tyler Myers' sweater tonight. The training staff then asked Tocchet, who supported the idea. Great gesture by Millsy to give it to his buddy, said the Canucks coach. And I did see some people actually going out there and asking, hey, wait a minute, why does JT Miller not have an A? That was yesterday during the game, and it turns out we know the answer. He gave his A to Tyler Myers for celebrating the 1,000th game of his NHL career. What a great gesture there. And honestly, what a good show of camaraderie and brotherhood amongst the locker room. Okay, maybe that's like a hyper-masculine way to say it, but either way, great gesture there by JT Miller. Obviously, he had himself quite the few points the past few games and has been doing a really good job at just doing what it is that he does, despite the fact that he's not 100% healthy. He had started taking face-offs in yesterday's game against Pittsburgh as well. Was really good in the dot too, so obviously that's a great sign for him and his health. But let's go over to the Canucks sub to see some of the extra posts and charts that were posted today as well. Starting out with this, Nebula Realistic had himself a post from Josh Yohei. Yohei does stuff for the Pittsburgh beat on The Athletic, and he ended up writing this about the Vancouver Canucks and Penguins game from last night. The Canucks are some kind of a hockey team. It's always nice to hear the other side's beat reporters fawn over the team that beat theirs. Josh Yohei of The Athletic said this. I can't say enough about the job Rick Tocchet, Jim Rutherford, and Patrik Allvin have done in Vancouver. There isn't much in the way of any weakness when you look at their roster. The Canucks haven't been sharp yet this season, and they're still 4-1-2. They have a couple more gears than the Penguins as they displayed in the second period. Impressive team. And for all the doom and gloom, for all the people saying that the Vancouver Canucks have not played their absolute best yet, For those talking about how the Canucks still have a ways to go, the fact is they are still 4-1-2. And I kind of had to take a step back myself and acknowledge, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Like, they're still finding ways to get results, beating good teams like a Barkov and Tkachuk-less Florida Panthers team, getting themselves into overtime against other teams. They're still chugging along here, getting points, even though they might not necessarily be playing their best hockey. Even in the Penguins game yesterday, they just kind of had a game plan to fully go into defense mode in the third period, which is great, but in the first period and the second period, they were not playing their best. They looked strong in the first, but they couldn't convert, and in the second period, before they scored 3 goals in 65 seconds, they were absolutely getting their crap kicked in, especially at the beginning of that second period. So the Canucks still finding their form, becoming better, and trying to build up that chemistry. There still are a bunch of new guys on the team that need to get used to Rick Tocchet's system. Anyways, speaking about new guys, I wanted to refer back to one of the players that just got sent down today in Erik Brannstrom, because there was this post made by JFresh, who ended up charting the Vancouver Canucks defenseman amongst the other defensemen in the NHL. This, of course, was copied and pasted and posted onto the Canucks sub. Here are the expected goals for versus expected goals against charts for defensemen in the NHL. You can see at the very top right, you have good offense and good defense. At the bottom left, you have bad offense and bad defense. Erik Brannstrom is technically the best Vancouver Canucks defenseman, which is kinda nuts. I mean, he has the best ratio of expected goals for per 60 and expected goals against per 60. If you want to go by numbers, Brannstrom is the highest expected goals for defenseman the Canucks have, and Vinny Desharnais is the best defensive expected goals against defenseman the Canucks have too. The worst Canucks D-man is actually Carson Soucy, who has the lowest expected goals for per 60 amongst the Canucks D-men, while still having maybe a slightly better expected goals against per 60 number than Tyler Myers. The only guy who is below average is Tyler Myers. So, I mean, look, he still got an assist yesterday, which is great to see. Just try to fill in the blanks too, because you can see here, there are some guys that are, let's say, at the very bottom left of the chart here. I think there's an Anaheim guy there who has a really low expected goals against per 60, or not really low, excuse me, a really high expected goals against per 60. Try to guess who that is. There's some Montreal guys in there too. I think that maybe David Savard could be one of them. I'm not really too sure. And then in the top right, you can see some New York guys, a bunch of Carolina guys, some Edmonton guys, and Erik Brannstrom, which is awesome to see because he certainly has been doing good things. Maybe much better things than we expected as well. And of course, we can talk about that Myers and Soucy pairing, which has not been great this season. I think they were on the ice for however many goals against in a row, spanning the past game or so. Yeah, even some of the comments here are talking about how that pairing needs to get going a little bit and start shutting things down a bit more. It's tough to do that at times, though. Anyway, speaking about JFresh and expected goals against per 60, he ended up posting this from October 27th as well, so earlier today, the overall team expected goals against per 60 metrics, score and venue adjusted. Turns out, despite the fact that Myers and Soucy have been kind of meh, they have been one of the best teams in the NHL. They're top 5 in the league in expected goals against per 60, which essentially means that the Vancouver Canucks are among the best in limiting high-danger chances against per 60 minutes. They're doing a really good job, and some of these other teams, I mean, Minnesota, Carolina, LA, pretty good defensive teams. Vancouver, I wouldn't say they've been the best defensively this season, but they're still up there, which is definitely a great sign to see. And just going down the chart here, look at that. The Pittsburgh Penguins, 3.51 at the bottom. And then Montreal, 4.19. Gosh, they're bad. With that in mind, though, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Vancouver Canucks update? Thoughts on Patrik Allvin sending down Brannstrom and Bains? What are your thoughts on Miller giving up his A to Tyler Myers? How do you feel about the Pittsburgh beat giving Vancouver their props? And how do you feel about the expected goals against and expected goals for charts, promoting guys like Erik Brannstrom and kind of condemning guys like Myers and Soucy? What are your thoughts on the Canucks' defensive results overall compared to the rest of the league too? The comment section is your floor. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.